In the summer of 2019, three college friends, Lena, Marco, and Jason, rented a secluded lake house in northern Michigan. They just wrapped up their junior year, and all they wanted was one thing: peace and silence. A break from exams, city noise, and people. The place was listed on an obscure rental site. No reviews, but the pictures were gorgeous. A two-story wooden house nestled in tall pine trees, with a rickety old dock that stretched out into a fog-covered lake. It was exactly what they needed: isolation and water. They arrived on a Sunday afternoon, all three crammed into Marco's dusty blue SUV. The long gravel road leading to the house crunched under the tires, and for a moment, none of them spoke. The cabin loomed ahead, half shadowed by the trees, looking older than the photos had shown. A wind chime above the front door clinked lazily, even though the air was still. They laughed it off. Summer vibes, they told themselves. Rustic charm. They grilled burgers, played music by the lake, drank beer on the deck, and slept in late. No cell signal, no internet. Just water, wind, and trees. But on the third night, Jason heard something. He'd woken up around 2:30 a.m., needing to pee. As he walked down the narrow hallway toward the bathroom, he paused. Above him, in the ceiling, was the square wooden frame of the attic hatch. He'd never noticed it before. And now, there was a sound coming from behind it, a soft dragging, like something being pulled across the floorboards above. He stared at the square for a long time. No ladder, no string, nothing to open it with. He told himself it was raccoons, squirrels, nothing serious. By morning, he didn't even bring it up. That night, Marco was brushing his teeth when the bathroom light flickered and cut out. No big deal, old wiring. But when he opened the bathroom door, he swore he saw a shadow at the end of the hallway. It looked like a person crouching, but misshapen, too thin, head tilted sideways. He shouted for Lena. When she came running, there was nothing there. "I think you drank too much," she said, "or you're imagining stuff." Marco didn't sleep that night. He sat upright in bed, phone flashlight on, watching the hallway, just in case. The next day, around noon, they were cleaning the kitchen when a dull thud echoed from upstairs. Jason and Lena rushed up, thinking maybe a raccoon had gotten in, but what they saw made Jason stop cold. The attic hatch was hanging open. Just a crack, maybe 2 inches, but definitely open. Marco swore up and down he hadn't touched it. None of them had, and there was no ladder, no way to reach it without stacking furniture. Jason grabbed a broom and pushed the door shut. This time he jammed a chair underneath it. That night, no one said a word. They sat outside by the lake until nearly 2 a.m., trying not to go back inside. It was around 3:14 a.m. when Lena woke up crying. Jason heard her through the paper-thin walls and rushed to her room. She was sitting upright, eyes wide, whispering, "It was above me. I heard it breathing." Jason sat next to her, heart racing. She pointed at the ceiling. "It's walking around up there. It knows we're scared." He listened, and sure enough, above them, there were soft, deliberate footsteps. Jason, being the dumb brave one, grabbed a flashlight and a broom again. He moved the chair, nudged the attic hatch open, and pointed his light up. The beam cut through dust. There were wooden beams, dead spiders, and what's scratch marks all along the attic floor, like fingernails or claws scraping through years of grime. There was no raccoon, no squirrel. There was, however, a large dark stain on one beam and an old children's shoe tucked in the corner. They left the attic alone after that. On the last night, they decided to sleep in the same room just for peace of mind. Around 4 a.m., as they lay awake, listening for noises, the house suddenly went still. No creaks, no wind. And then the attic hatch slammed open. They heard it bang, as if something heavy had jumped down from above. Jason leapt up and grabbed the flashlight, but it flickered and died. They sat in complete darkness, too scared to speak. A minute later, from the hallway, they heard breathing. Not raspy, not human. It was wet, like something breathing through a mouthful of water. Then it laughed. A single dry, childlike giggle. And then it was gone. They didn't pack properly. They threw everything in bags, peeled out of the driveway, and didn't look back. Jason said he didn't even lock the front door. Later, they emailed the rental site. No reply. When they searched for the house listing again, it was gone. 2 months later, Lena did a deep web search using the house's coordinates. She found an archived local news article from 1996. Missing child found dead in attic of lakeside home. The couple who moved in claimed they never heard a sound. But neighbors reported hearing a child's laughter every night for weeks. Jason never went camping again. Marco changed his number, and Lena, Lena still dreams of that breathing. In 2014, Alex, a 19-year-old seasonal worker from Oregon, got a summer job as a lifeguard at a private resort in Maine. The place was exclusive. Old money types, politicians, rich families who didn't want the public beaches. The resort was quiet, fancy, and surrounded by dense woods with a long boardwalk that led to a secluded beach. Alex thought it'd be an easy gig. Sit in a chair, wear sunglasses, watch a few bored kids splash around while earning good money. He wasn't wrong at first, but something about that beach always felt off. From day one, Alex noticed something strange. Every evening, right around 6:40 p.m., a dense fog rolled in from the ocean, but not like regular fog. It came in fast, as if poured out of something, and it always stayed low. It would creep across the sand, curl up the dunes, and stop just before the tree line. Every night, exactly the same way. And it didn't matter what the weather had been all day, sunny, windy, cloudy, it still came. He asked the older staff. Most just shrugged. One of the senior lifeguards, Tommy, told him, "Just don't be on the beach alone after the fog comes in." Seriously, Alex thought he was joking, a creepy warning for the new guy. But Tommy didn't laugh. On his fourth night, Alex stayed a little late. There had been a birthday party that ran overtime, and some kid lost his water shoe. Alex waited until the family left, then started scanning the shoreline one last time. The fog was already coming in. He was about to leave when he noticed someone sitting at the edge of the water. A girl, maybe 9 or 10, pale skin, dark hair, wearing a vintage one-piece swimsuit, the kind you'd see in old 70s magazines. She was just sitting there, facing the ocean. Alex called out, "Hey kid, you can't be out here alone." She didn't move. He took a few steps toward her. "Are you lost?" Still no response. Her head stayed perfectly still, rigid. Alex got within 15 feet, and then the fog swallowed her. 1 second she was there, the next, gone. He ran forward, heart racing, kicking up sand. Nothing. No footprints, no sound. Just the incoming fog and a sudden chill in the air, he told Tommy the next morning. Tommy didn't even flinch. "You saw the girl? You're lucky she didn't follow you back." Alex waited for the punchline again, but Tommy just kept looking at him. He told Alex about the lifeguard's curse, a story that had circled around the staff for years. No official records, but everyone knew someone had drowned there long ago. A young girl. Staff had missed her. She wandered into the water alone during a fog event. Her body was never recovered. Since then, people said they saw her at dusk. Silent, still, always sitting, always waiting. But here's the thing. If you speak to her, you invite her attention. If you walk toward her, she notices. If you touch her, she follows. Alex laughed it off, but deep down, his gut didn't. The next night, Alex didn't go near the beach. He stayed in the lifeguard shack near the tree line, just reviewing paperwork, reorganizing sunscreen bottles, anything to kill time until it was safe to leave. But around 7:10 p.m., he heard something scraping on the wood. It sounded like someone dragging fingers along the outer walls of the shack, slowly, methodically. Then came the knocking. Knock. Pause. Knock, knock. Pause. Knock. Alex stood frozen, clutching the rescue float like a weapon. He moved to the tiny window and peeked out. No one. But the fog was pressed up against the windows, like a living thing, coiling and curling around the shack. Suddenly, the radio burst to life. Static, then a high-pitched, warbling sound, like a child's humming, completely out of tune. He yanked the battery out and ran out the back door, straight into the trees, heart hammering. He didn't stop until he reached the staff dorms. The next morning, one of the resort supervisors reviewed the beach surveillance footage. There had been reports of strange lights the night before. Alex asked to see the recording. At 6:46 p.m., right when the fog rolls in, the beach is empty. Then at 6:48 p.m., a shape appears near the shoreline, low to the ground, then rising. The girl. She turns her head toward the camera. Her face is wrong. Blurry, too symmetrical. Her smile stretches too wide. At 6:49 p.m., she walks toward the lifeguard shack. The next 2 minutes, the fog grows thicker. Then, the shack door opens by itself. And then the feed cuts to black. Alex didn't last the summer. He made it 2 more nights, sleeping with the lights on and avoiding the beach completely. On his last shift, he left a note for Tommy. If she ever comes all the way up the hill, don't open the door. In 2022, newlyweds Mark and Elise rented a beach house on the Outer Banks of North Carolina for their honeymoon. It wasn't fancy or flashy, just a private place by the dunes where they could cook together, watch sunsets, and stay far away from the rest of the world. Mark had found the listing online. It was cheap, and the host was unusually eager to book them for 2 full weeks. There was only one strange thing. The host left a single line in the welcome message. "Please don't try to open the basement door." They both thought it was a joke. The beach house was stunning. A whitewashed exterior, wraparound porch, a short trail through the dunes that led directly to the sea. The first few days were perfect. Morning coffee on the porch, afternoon swims, long walks at night. Elise had never been happier. They were newly in love, far from the noise of home, and everything just felt right until the wind changed. On the sixth night, Mark noticed something odd. As he stood in the kitchen pouring wine, he heard something behind the pantry wall, a muffled sound like a thump or a knock. He opened the pantry. Nothing there, just canned goods, spices, and a locked white door at the very back. The door was barely noticeable, painted the same color as the wall, but there it was. A basement door, padlocked, just as the host had warned. He called Elise over, showed her. "Maybe there's just old junk down there," she said. "Or maybe bodies," Mark joked. They laughed. But that night the sound came back. Around 2 a.m., Elise shook Mark awake. "Do you hear that?" At first he didn't. Then, yes, faint music. A child's lullaby, off-key, slow, like it was playing on a dusty record. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." Mark got out of bed and pressed his ear to the floor. It was coming from below them, from the basement. When he opened the pantry door to check again, the music stopped. The next morning, the white padlock looked different, like it had been moved, scratched. They didn't talk about it much that day, just stayed outside longer, tried to forget. That evening, Elise went for a walk alone. She followed the familiar sandy path from their porch to the water's edge. But this time, the path wasn't empty. Bare footprints, dozens of them, small, like a child's, leading from the dunes toward the house. No one else had access to the property. It was private, miles from the nearest rental. When she called Mark and showed him, he went pale. "I swear I locked the gate," he muttered. They followed the prints until they reached the porch, then the pantry, and then the basement door. There were finger smudges on it, small, greasy, like someone had been trying to claw it open from the inside. By the 9th night, sleep had become impossible. The music played on and off. The knocks grew louder. Sometimes the sound of something dragging echoed up through the vents. And then at 3:12 a.m. came the whisper. Both of them heard it, clear, female, childlike. "Let me out." Mark couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed a hammer and flashlight. "No one puts a damn ghost in my basement," he joked weakly. He broke the padlock. Elise begged him to stop, but he didn't listen. He pulled open the door. A narrow wooden staircase led into pitch blackness. The smell that came up was rot and wet dirt, like something long dead. They went down together. The stairs opened into a concrete room no bigger than a closet. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, but not just wallpaper. Childlike drawings, crayons, stick figures, red scribbles. In the center of the floor was a small wooden chair and a thick iron ring bolted to the ground. A broken chain lay beside it. Elise was crying. Mark turned to leave, and the door slammed shut behind them. The flashlight flickered, and in that flickering light, they saw her. She was standing against the far wall, wearing a torn blue dress, her face too smooth like wax, her eyes completely black. She stepped forward, and with every step the air grew colder. She opened her mouth, but no words came, just a wet, gurgling noise, like choking on seawater. Mark slammed his shoulder against the door until it cracked open. They ran up, out, slammed the pantry shut, and threw the dining table against it. They didn't sleep. By morning they were gone, left the food, the bags, even their phones. They just got in the car and drove until the beach was 5 hours behind them. Elise never returned to the ocean again. A month later, Mark tried to leave a review. The listing? Gone. He called the owner's number. Disconnected. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him. He went to the local courthouse, looked up the address. Turns out the house was seized by the state in 1993, after a couple was arrested for keeping a child prisoner in their basement. The girl had been missing for 12 years. She was never found. Some say her spirit never left. And every summer when couples come looking for love and peace, she waits.